Hey guys, it's Celine again, and maybe all my problems have been solved. Wouldn't that be something? Um, Stuff to fidget with. Okay, I will show what I've got here in a minute. But okay, so I got this new tool. Today's Thursday, the 15th of May, 2025, as I always, report in at some point with when exactly this is what you're seeing here is actually coming to you. Because I think that's somehow relevant. I don't know. I'm just trying to organize my life here. So the new thing in my life, apparently, since about half an hour, is I have one of those claspy thingies that you, like with a bracket that you attach to the table, and then there's a sort of a stiff arm that you can clasp your phone in, and lo and behold, I don't have to hold the phone. The predecessor of this, let me show you, because this is really my kind of tech. This is what I have recorded, 900 and I don't know how many, probably 1,000 or so nearly. This may well be my 1,000th video, by the way. So horrible. Why am I even out there? Well, it turns out that that is important to me, to come back out again. I have so much stuff that I want to talk about to actual people. And just like everybody else, well, not everybody, but lots of people that I engage with on the internet, it is not as easy as you might want to engage directly, physically or even by telephone or something. This thing can actually go retire. I will probably stick it in the fireplace and burn it up because I have a fireplace. I'm a lucky girl. And this needs a little ritual to go into the next world, don't you think? Because it has actually held my phone while I was recording my egg box with it. Notice the little hole. This is just a hack in case you cannot afford one of those brace things. This one cost €11, which is this much, so fine, and it was a real cheapo one, and we'll see how well it does eventually. The purpose of this hole here is that you can stick the cable through into the bottom of the phone to charge it, and position this close to your socket in the wall so the phone can charge while you are jabbering away at the internet. That is why there's a hole there. So this is altogether me. This is like symbolic of how I have managed my life in its entirety. And it makes me laugh and it makes me cry at the same time. I don't know if you can tell, but there's actually kind of wateriness in my eyes at the moment because, life has not been easy. Gosh dang it. So I feel quite strongly the need to come back out. Also, there's a reflection on my glasses from the sun on the floor. I've done a thing with draping my curtains so that I don't look like an actual Halloween character with the sun glaring onto the wooden floor and then on my face like that. I'm giggling and I'm just generally in a mess. I've been in a mess, I suppose, personally, over the past a couple of months, really, where also I haven't really hardly made any content for my channel. I have been sort of despairing whether to continue on with my channel, which happens to a lot of people who do videos like this, especially small channels like mine. I still think what I have to offer has value, and it's just up to people to figure out whether they want to look at me or not, listen to me talk. Why I invest in my own way into these things when I can. And, sometimes what comes out ends up being different than what I was thinking of in my brain or what I was expecting. And because I do things completely off the cuff, I don't script things, I hardly ever prepare things. I've actually got a tarot video, sort of tarot Lenormand mix video in the making and the works at the moment, where I have prepared notes for that, and I will be. That's why I bought the thing, the brace thing, to hold my phone, because then I can do face down as well on my table, and I can have both hands working with the little miniature cards again. That is going to be quite a bit of fun, and I actually have ideas for that, and I made, I prepared for that. That is not my normal MO. I tend to just talk at the camera because there's like, my channel is a very chaotic, to most people I suppose, convoluted, unpredictable sort of a channel, which is why the algorithm doesn't know what to make of me, which I think personally is really fine, because some of my content is also rather vulnerable and personal, and has been over the years, where I have, had these moments where I just had to put something out there for whomever it may benefit, for whatever, wherever it may lead, even if it's just a part of it or a couple of moments in it. I've had enough positive responses from people to all sorts of different types of videos over the years that I think it's worth continuing. Also, it's something I need to do. I love when, especially, so my channel, okay, so I'm gonna potentially try to also reintroduce my channel slightly here. This is just what I call a witchy check-in. So those are really the backbone of my channel, I suppose, is my witchy check-ins, where I just come at you with there's some crazy developments that's been happening, and sometimes a lot of it is sort of psychotherapeutic, and because I've got a decent amount of trauma, and I think that is actually the most valuable thing that I have to share on my channel, that I still feel like I continue having. I see the value in that always, and the more I think about it now, the more I talk about it at this particular moment in time, I think, yes, it has value to share my perspective. However, there's to the whole psychotherapeutic core of my channel, there's a couple of things I should be saying, or I should have been saying, why I do things the way I do them. And I have occasionally said those, but it should be more of a, it should be made a little more obvious and a little less convoluted, and so on and so forth. So there's that. There's a whole bunch of creative stuff that sort of sits right next to the psychotherapeutic stuff that I'd love to show, that I love to share and come out with. And some of it is actually just plain old, spinning wool, crochet and knitting, sometimes using fabric, sewing, even, which I haven't really learned properly. So I'm in the middle of creating this, recreating, repurposing and upcycling, yes, which I think is a huge deal. So textile, right? I'm doing this sort of a sleeveless jacket thing, which I bought the actual, it is like a polyester, but it feels very linen-y. So it feels nice for the summer. It was also like 2 sizes at least too large for me. So I've done a couple of things to this just to show you a bit of what it is that I tend to want to do with these things. This is the fabric of the actual, there's a sleeve hole right there, I put in the little woolly thread here as a decoration because there's a seam in here. The jacket that I got second hand, so in a thrift store, right? It was like too large for me. It had the decorative black strange looking black gauzy, which I still think is kind of neat and witchy and silly and weird. You know, I just leave that in. I was thinking of chopping it off, but I will just leave it because it's just part of the whole thing here. It had a couple of problems for me. So one of them being the size and the shape of it, where I actually solved the issue of the shape. It was really boxy. So if I go like just one side of it for now, because there's pins, I took this part here over the top of the shoulder. I took that in. So I made a little seam just like that, like about 10 centimeters or 12 or so, over the top of the shoulder, where I took in maybe 1.5 centimeters. What is that? 1/2 inch or so in the other kind of measurement, so that it didn't look as boxy, you know. And so there's that. Just as an example. The really nice thing about this is going to be the massive pockets. I have a pocket like this, and the other pocket looks like this. There it is. See? This is African style fabric that I can get at the next town where there's a you know, a printer, a fabric printer, fabric maker factory, I suppose, that's been there for a century and a bit more, I think. So they do a lot of these batik style, so wax print, you know, type fabric. This is the creative style. Generally, I have all sorts of things on the go in terms of creative projects. Sometimes I think I just need 5 more hands to get everything done that I want to get done. I'm working on a tarot cloth with beads on that takes forever to make, but I'm enjoying it, and it just gets deeper and more interesting and more profound for me as I go. All this, you know, I'm saying tarot cloth, that is actually on the edge of where it becomes witchcraft again, you know. So not again, actually it becomes witchcraft. So that's a third, let's call it a dimension to the stuff I tend to push into my channel. Psychotherapeutic, creative work that isn't necessarily witchcraft in any way, except for me it feels that way a lot of the time. But a lot of the creative things is also finding creative or makeshift, you know, sturdy solutions to practical problems, you know, things like that. I'm reminded of, I have curtains here that I have in front of the sunshine, where they're old curtains repurposed from another house where they had different measurements, you know, and I attached a massive band of a different similar fabric to the bottom of one of the curtains, and it works like a dream. Perfect. You know, it even looks cool. Everything looks really cool. It also looks rather different and rather cobbled together and just generally thrown in there and see what sticks kind of stuff, you know. So I occasionally, so witchcraft is a thing, and in the witchcraft dimension, I suppose I do hauls occasionally. I get crystals. I have a passion for crystals that borders on the nonsensical. I can always have more crystals, and I have quite a bit of knowledge about them, and I use them really purposefully. I'm looking around to see if there's anything I can show you. In particular, there's a big carnelian stone here like that. So this is just a wonderful type stone. I have bracelets, which was one of the fidgety things earlier in the video. So these, I think, are really helpful, because if you're really attuned to what the crystals feel like, and if you get crystals that are really working for you as a person, which is a whole story by itself, which is a theme for like a dozen videos, how can you feel which crystal is for you and why? And how can you own that aspect of your life, which I think is a very big part of witchcraft, is how that maybe that's my definition of what witchcraft really is, you know, is we want to own our craft, and the craft means the access we have to our emotions, to our feelings, to what things feel like in our surroundings, and have some measure of control of that. That makes it a craft, if you have some measure of control over it. So that's what I would like to offer as a sort of a working definition of witchcraft, really. And it's not negative, and it has everything to do with survival, often in a positive manner of surviving your best in your best possible way, or fighting against influences that you really do not want in your life or cannot have in your life without having huge issues with them. So, and so on and so forth. So there's a whole the craft being, creative work or witchcraft, or for example, working with herbs, which I do quite a bit as well. I've just made a huge jar again of sleepy tea mix where I got most of the herbs from a herb shop in the south of France on my holiday last year. Chamomile, linden blossom, melissa, which is lemon balm, yes, in the other language, vervain, those kinds of things. And so I work with herbs quite a bit, also making sort of set things that I love to use regularly. I can talk about that kind of stuff often, a lot of the time. However, these are just a couple of examples of what I tend to want to do on my channel. I tend to want to share things that are important to me, and or things that I've been making or things that I've been using. Often, if you want to know what carnelian does for you, you can just Google it. You don't need me to tell you about carnelian unless I find some really special way to describe the effect of it or the use of it or something I've never really encountered before, then I will put it on. So my channel has a lot of, content bits and pieces. I suppose there's more into the witchcraft side. If you go deeper into the witchcraft dimension, you come to my Kundalini Yoga content, which is my Tumo practice, which I call Tumo because that is the closest that I've found in the culture to describe that. The Tumo practice ties back in with the psychotherapeutic reports that I tend to make or tend to want to make with, my witchy check-ins mostly. And I've done descriptions or, given sort of general instructions on how to practice this Tumo as I do it and what the benefits are, and talked about that. That is actually a type of video which is both witchcrafty because it has a lot of access to all sorts of forces and energies in nature on the one hand, but it also in the long run, because I've been doing this for 5.5 years now, it becomes part of your personal growth and your psychological, your state of being, your consciousness really is affected by doing this Tumo. And that is just wonderful and just something which is by itself is just worth talking about forever on my channel. I think if I just manage to get the breath, get the general wherewithal to do that, then I should just go on talking about my Tumo practice and what it does for me, because it's insane. So it's also sometimes really difficult, which makes for the most interesting types of, adventures. These are really adventures too, that take time, and there's challenges, and sometimes you just for a while, like me in the past couple of months, I didn't have the sort of a combination of the, it isn't really confidence. I need to have some confidence to come out and say things into the camera in general. There's more, and on the back end of the confidence inside me, there needs to be a feeling of being at ease inside myself. I need to have some sense of inner peace, some sense of inner harmony to make a video. So maybe the best bit for me to be doing is to continue on going for the inner peace and the inner harmony, as I've been, trying, because, oh my gosh, and bring that to you then. Bring that into my videos more and more consciously and more, because I'm sort of becoming aware that I can do more purposefully in my videos. I can choose what it is that happens now, which I couldn't before, because changes and, growth and things. So that is actually quite a nice, I'm actually rather chuffed about that. I can feel this. I had this thought like last week or something for the first time, where it isn't about technology. It isn't about just sharing. I occasionally share tarot decks or other kinds of cartomancy bits and pieces that I do or that I work with. I love my tarot and oracle 2 bits. I have also got a really weird practice in terms of cards, and I have often made, so you get a crossover again between the creative and the sort of a witchy, esoteric, whatever, alternative. It's all really alternative, but it's not really goth, I don't think, because I don't really look goth, do I? With my flowery shirts always. I can't resist these, especially if they have passion flowers on them. I will get the shirt if they have passion flowers, because, amazing. I'll second that, because price differences, yes. So I'm looking at the phone or looking at the clock over there to see what the time it is, because this has been 20 minutes of me generally sort of a refresh to my channel. I will put probably a different banner on just to have a bit more of a change in vibe. That banner has been on there for 5 years or so. It's time for a change. It's time to do things a little more purposefully, a little more clearly. And I can do that while still being my chaotic and rambly self, and, generally being this mad hatter of a person over here. So if you came along, if you are coming along, I love that. I never really felt comfortable asking for likes, asking for comments or any of it, or subscribing, or that is just up to you. I don't feel like doing that now or ever, I don't think. I feel myself like a curtain, a leaden curtain that has been around me, is slowly lifting. I can hardly believe it myself, which means I become more accessible as a human being, as a person. I'm going to be 59 years old this August, so about that time, I think, that I become a little more visible as a person. I kind of hope this will affect my channel as well. So results from the practice, from the things, from the therapy and all the thinking and all the journaling and all the, because it's been a slog, I don't mind saying. So that being said, I just hope that I can, look like a person you maybe want to drop a comment in, beneath at some point or other in the future. And if you don't, it's fine. And if you don't even think of liking, or if you just watch 5 minutes, it's fine. Because I'm not really here to promote anything. I'm certainly not here to promote my tumor, even though it's a really good thing to be doing. It's not completely heartless. So I don't want people to get into this too deep without, guidance and thought and care. So there's that. There's always caveats. Life isn't, one single dimension. There's lots of dimensions. So thank you for watching my reintroductory prattle about my channel here. I hope it makes sense. I hope to make a little more content in the near future, once a week or so at least. Maybe one. I used to do that regularly, you know, just do once a week a longer video like this one, and maybe one or two little ones just showing some bits and pieces. Thank you for watching, my dears. I hope to see you in the next one. Okay, bye for now. Bye bye.